I'm not sure what it is about delinquent mangas that make the genre so interesting. Maybe it's watching someone being bullied stand up for themselves. Maybe it's just watching someone strong wipe the floor with a bunch of people in a plausible, modern setting. More likely, however, is the relatability of the characters. Fantasy characters are often larger-than-life people, or people from vastly different walks of life, and the genre makes them understandable for us in order for us to relate to them, and therefore care about them. Characters in this genre are already quite relatable, and some may even share similar experiences with their audience. I think this relatability, conveyed through the intensity of fistfights and street brawls, makes delinquent mangas really special. Gray Yun is weak. He stands at a meager 5'2", has a skeletal frame, and barely weighs 100 pounds. However, do not mistake this weakness for powerlessness. Due to his stature, Gray is often and an easy target for bullies, but that won't stop him from charging at them even at the expense of his own safety. Gray is fiercer and more cunning than anyone else. This is because Gray needs to be in order to survive. After he was forced to transfer from his previous school due to a certain incident, Gray vowed to no longer be on the sidelines. If Gray wanted to make a change, he had to fight for it, by any means necessary. On that day, after losing someone he held dear, he vowed to never lose again, no matter what. Weak Hero is an amazing story. The pacing is especially good, and how the author works with foreshadowing is amazing, especially later in the series. He really gives great perspective to Gray, who arguably shouldn't be a main character at all. In fact, throughout the series, Ben Park feels more like the main character than Gray does, and in the later parts of the series, he is even explicitly compared as an opposite force to Donald Na, the main villain. Speaking of Donald, the character is incredible. His design alone is cool, but his schemes are also next level. One thing I can appreciate about his scheming in this series is that it's legitimately followable. When communicating intelligence or genius, it's really easy to go into the light Yagami route, or the Aizen from Bleach route, just unrealistic preparation, foresight, and more preparations. In Weak Hero, the characters do show foresight, but it's more relative to the personalities of the other characters. For example, Donald Na will take two of his subordinates that are hostile towards them and pit them against each other by calling one in for a degrading meeting and another in for a rewarding one, but timing it so that they can meet on the way out and in respectively. These little nudges feel far more plausible and give you that, oh, that was clever feeling when compared to any crazy planning. Gray is no slouch himself, but his cleverness is more seen in his fights and clever use of his surroundings and the objects in them. The fights can get quite brutal, which makes for some awesome art. Not only that, but every fight feels purposeful, like it's communicating something larger to the plot and something more meaningful to the audience. That's one of my favorite things about this manga, is the fact they made a modern setting read and feel like an epic fantasy journey. I could go on and on about Weak Hero, but I would definitely give it a solid 9 out of 10 skulls, if only because it's still ongoing. Hubin is not incredibly smart, nor is he incredibly athletic, nor is he incredibly rich. While everyone seems to have something, Hubin has nothing. After entering high school, and specifically this class, he has been nothing but the stooge of Pakko, a bully who humiliates his classmates on his YouTube channel. Hubin is his main actor per se, but Pakko and Hubin's insecurities aren't the only ones kicking him around. Hubin is just an easy target and seemingly a magnet for bullies. It's not exaggerating when he says his life is torture. One day, one of his bullies lets himself into Hubin's house. While Hubin cooks food, his friend is using his preciously limited electricity and internet to stream. On accident, Hubin trips and falls, spilling the food all over Jixei. The two get into a fight, and unwittingly, it is streamed and uploaded for all the internet to see. Within a blink of an eye, Hubin earns more money than he's seen in his life. Jixei, however, must face the consequences the next day at school, as he too is trying his best to survive. He finds the delicate tower he built come crashing down. Ironically, the only one he can talk to about this is Hu Bin. Eventually, the two hatch a plan to stand up to Pako on one of his streams and snipe him at the same time. However, in the midst of the fists, Hu Bin can't help but think it's not enough. No, what the world needs isn't another pushover or another victim. There must be someone through the pain, through the shame, and through their own fists. Someone willing to stand up to their aggressor. How to Fight is an amazing work of art. Not only are the techniques researched, but the art is clean and the story is heart-pumping. There are three main things I love about this manga. The art is clean and has this way of looking realistic while very clearly adhering to the modern webtoon sort of style. This especially helps to emphasize the fights. The second thing is the story. It's a classic underdog story but manages to never feel too predictable. It's easy to assume who will win the fight, but ultimately it's the tension and the pacing that grips you and leaves you on the edge of your seat. It also helps that the cast is so dynamic and well. Eye-catching, to say the least. The third and final reason is the accuracy of the techniques. The concept of the manga is a little exaggerated, but the techniques are pretty accurate. This manga deserves a definite 8 out of 10 skulls. Although, my personal bias might be affecting the score a bit. However, if you love a classic underdog story and martial arts, then this is for you. Ha Doan is what's known as a gaming shuttle. Shuttles, for reference, are people bullies designate to do or buy things for them. In this case, Doan is supposed to farm games for him, but in the end, it doesn't matter. There will always be something. During school break, Doan is threatened and forced to farm an impossibly rare sword. Luck, unfortunately, is not on his side. However, after staying up for a week straight, he manages to acquire the weapon, and an even rarer version at that. However, as Doan relaxes, having accomplished his goal, the week of sleep deprivation hits him. Only one thing and one thing alone enters the fringes of his sight. Death enters his purview. In the darkness, his thoughts don't stop. A screen enters his vision. As the screen updates with unfamiliar messages, Doan is suddenly and abruptly brought back to the end of class and the beginning of the week, before break. The only difference is, this time he can see a status screen in front of him. As the events of yesterday repeat themselves, Doan decides enough is enough. Although, even though Doan finds courage, reality is much crueler than he thought. However, the status screen pops up and Doan is armed with something far beyond his comprehension. In an instant, reality is turned on its head as game itself turns into reality. The reality of the game screen and the reality of, well, real life provide an excellent contrast in this manga and was one of the main reasons I like it. I've rarely seen a quest screen or this sort of isekai trope put into a modern setting, other than settings I call hunter settings. These are settings where suddenly in the modern day, dungeons or towers or interdimensional breaks of monsters occur and people gain superhuman abilities as well. Usually these people form hunter guilds, hence the hunter setting. As a side note, I'm not sure if it's the origin, but the popularity and success of solo leveling are likely a major part of its ubiquity. But it's very easy to warp the whole setting to fit this new superhuman or fantasy adjacent setting. However, what I enjoy about this is how it meshes real life and this superhuman game-like reality. No one in this manga is shown to have similar powers, but also Doan is not able to steamroll his opponents without any stakes being met or felt. However, that is only secondary to the plot. The mysteries of this manga are what really make it take off after its initial momentum of the hook. Ultimately, this is not the story of heroes being rationalized, nor is it a story of a supernatural being natural. It's the story of a coward becoming a hero, and the natural becoming super. It's a story where the game's power only highlights the importance of reality. I would give this a higher rating, but too many things are left unrevealed and uncertain. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but so often are there stories where the ending is what ends up spoiling the whole series. Game of Thrones. So, I would give this a 7 out of 10, just because I would like to reserve judgment for when it's more complete. We talked a lot about bullying and delinquents today, but do they really exist? Kim Soo-hyun would absolutely beg to differ. After all, the ones who are asking him that question are those very bullies themselves. So of course, Soo-hyun knows bullies still exist. Soo-hyun, who has nothing but his webtoons, can do nothing but fruitlessly struggle. One day, while sick of it all, he shouts for a miracle, like something out of a webtoon, to happen to him. Alas, reality doesn't greet him so pleasantly. Or does it? In the depths of despair does appear a screen of blue that shall shake the life of, well, this random dude. This manga and the previous are quite similar for multiple reasons. The meshing of game and reality, quest and reality, are quite similar. The underdog nature of their protagonists are also quite similar, and even the appearances of the main characters are also quite similar. However, what makes these stories special, what distinguishes them, is the care put into them. It's very obvious that both protagonists are meant to be self-inserts. However, that is where the two differ as well. The first manga diverges by creating a mystery around the character and the quests themselves. This manga, which I personally am more partial to, does the opposite and fully commits to the questing, each quest only leading to more and more trouble, to say the least. In a way, it brute forces the pacing, which I love. In these types of mangas, it's best to commit to the hot-blooded and fast-paced nature of it all. My personal bias might once again be influencing this, but I would give this a solid 7 out of 10, same as the last one. Quest supremacy and reality quests are two sides of the same coin, and thus deserve the same score, as they fared the same in execution and concept. Ju In-hong is a coward. However, his looks have had no mercy on him. For better or worse, some amount of fear is instilled just by the way he looks. However, by that same token, more than a few of the strongest around start to target him. Ju In-hong has nothing but his bluffs and looks to bet on. However, even that is not enough to save him. As he almost escapes the ring of enemies, he's attacked by its leader. He almost trips, but happens to die. There, he commits once again to his bluff.
You guys, do you really want to do this? Must you see blood? Do you all really want to die?
However, even after bluffing his way out of that situation, it only serves to attract more attention, as those higher up on the food chain suddenly become interested in this upset in rankings. This manga is hilarious. It's a bit old, and the language is a bit dated, not gonna lie, but for me it's a classic. Either way, I love this manga while being cute and concise in its concept. It's amazing in its execution. The only reason I dock it points is because a few of the themes and language are a bit dated. So between the super unique art, the pacing, and the fact that it didn't age as well as my personal bias would have liked, I would rate this manga a 6 out of 10 skulls. That's all for today. Happy reading!